So, our friend Humza Yousaf is at it again, where he's just playing politics, and he's not very good at it. The latest thing that he's done to upset the Westminster Government is meet the Turkish President at the recent COP convention. Despite the agreement due to the Scotland Act, the terms of the Scotland Act is the bill that allowed Scotland to have a parliament, that foreign affairs are a protected part of the agreement, that it's not a devolved power, it's a protected power, so that is always to be dealt with by the UK government. However, the UK government do allow the Scottish government to meet world leaders, etc., as long as they're allowed to have a UK delegate present at any such meetings. This is actually the second time that Humza has contravened this act. He met Icelandic officials in New York earlier this year, and which the then Home Office Secretary pointed out the errors of his ways. This one was seen as a wee bit more serious because current conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas is very delicate, and the UK government appeared to be trying to appease everybody here and try and remain as neutral as possible in such instances. However, Humza has went and met the Turkish President. Now, Turkey's view on the conflict is so one-sided that the Israelis recently pulled out all their diplomatic staff from Turkey. It's quite a serious situation, and to do so tells you everything you need to know about how Israel view Turkey's involvement and thoughts on the current conflict, because they pulled their staff out, diplomatic staff out, during conflict. So Turkey have been, reasonably, trying to think of the best word to use, supportive of those who Israel are at war with just now. So when you put that into the mix, you can understand why the British government see this as a little bit more serious than when he met the Icelandic president earlier in the year in New York. But this is the sort of thing that the SNP do, and they do regularly. They try to contravene everything and push everything to the limit, hoping that there's a reaction from the British government, so they can say, look how bad these people are, and they're interfering with Scottish government issues that they shouldn't. All I need to do is take you back to the gender reform rules that they were trying to implement, which went totally against the current legislation of the United Kingdom. And laws like that are, again, not a devolved power that the Hollywood government can interfere with. And they knew that fine well before they even put the thing in and tried to pass the bills to change the law. They knew it before it went to the highest courts in the land in London. As they were advised by the legal team that what they were doing was wrong, but they don't care. They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And when there's any reaction from the UK government, it's always, look at the bad boys in Westminster. Now, what David Cameron has done, he has threatened that if it ever happens again, two things will happen. The first thing is that the UK government would remove the ability to meet foreign government officials, even if there was to be a UK delegate present. They're saying they'll just stop allowing it to happen. And the other thing that I found was quite interesting is he's threatened that the Scottish Parliament have these kiddie-on embassies across the world, and some of them are actually within UK embassies, like Paris one, for example, where the UK embassies there and the Scottish Government have a wee area of it, a wee office, and call it their kiddie-on embassies. And there's several of these across the world, and he's also threatened that that would be looked at should any of this behaviour continue, which is quite a strong retort. However, when you look at how big an issue this is, it's Turkey, there's the anti-Israeli feeling in Turkey, there's potentially support of Hamas through Turkey. Now we've got Scottish First Minister standing having photo opportunities with the Turkish delegation and Turkish President, no less. You can see how this would be potentially a sticky situation for the UK government. And it's Humza sticking his nose into stuff that he knows nothing about. The guy, for goodness sake, was the worst health minister Scotland's ever had, and when he was the justice minister, he got caught driving a car. Oh, sorry, when he was a transport minister, that was 3 jobs he's mucked up. When he was a transport minister, he got caught driving a car without any tax or insurance or whatever it was. This is the guy we're talking about who wants to be grown up enough to actually deal with delicate situations like wars and things that are going on in the world. So you can understand why David Cameron, or Lord Cameron as he is now, looks at this so seriously. But one thing I would say to Mr Cameron is, or Lord Cameron, the terms of the Scotland Act are there for anybody what they want to view them. And there's one power that the UK government has at its disposal, and I would suggest they look into it. They can actually dissolve the Scottish Parliament. That's right. That's part of the Act that allowed the Scottish Parliament in the first place, the Scotland Act. Part of the terms and conditions of that is the UK government can dissolve the government, and stop that part, dissolve the Parliament, make it cease. And I just, as a Scottish person, would probably be quite happy with that. And the reason being, the SNP, there is not one matrix you can measure them on that they actually have improved their country. If anything, their country's worse, not just on metrics that you can measure them on, but just as society, because I've spoke before about them ripping the Scottish people apart by polarising them, making everybody have to, be one side or the other on the independence argument. You're either a Republican separatist or a unionist. Now, it's been very, very unhelpful and an unhealthy place to live since they got power back, what was that, about 2011? It's horrific. And these things you can't measure in matrices. But the stuff you can measure them on, they fail at every count. It must be the worst performing government in the world. And out of the assemblies, and again it annoys me that you've got a Welsh Assembly and the Northern Ireland Assembly at Stormont, but Scotland's got a government. It's a self-importance, and that's, Nicola Sturgeon was the same at the last COP event, which was held in Glasgow. Now, she wasn't actually part of it, but hung about everybody like a bad smell, looking for photo ops to try and kid on how important she is. You're not important. You have no powers, really, and the powers that you don't have, you're trying to steal. And the other thing, just as recently, and this is another thing that could cause the UK government some issues. I already spoke, I done a video about it, 75,000 people watched it, about Humza giving Gaza £750,000 in aid, which we don't know where it came from, because foreign aid is not a devolved power. The Scottish Government do, however, have 3 funds available that they can give money to foreign countries, but there's constraints on how much. I believe one of the pots was 10 million and the other 2 were £1 million each. But we gave this money to Gaza 24 hours before Humza's in-laws get released from the Gaza Strip, which is bizarre, on a closed border. They were first out, out in the first batch of 100 people. They were very fortunate that they happened to get out really early. So when you've got this guy who's got a history of giving to the UN, he paid that money through the UN fund, which is bizarre if you want to Google that, and how some of that fund is used for horrific types of education, and these people running it are just so single-minded, they're very anti-Semitic. So when him giving all this money that potentially he shouldn't have been able to, 24 hours before his in-laws get out of Gaza, because his father-in-law is Palestinian and was there when the Palestinian Hamas went in early October and started butchering innocent Israelis. They were in the Gaza at the time. So it's no wonder that the Scottish First Minister is stepping into big boy territory that the UK government would be particularly annoyed about. But this is nothing new. His predecessor done the same. Stop having a parliament. Get him an assembly if you want, with even less devolved powers than you have just now. Whatever Wales and Northern Ireland get, give us that, it's fine. Right? I don't think we should have less than them. But this kid on government, kid on parliament, with a kid on First Minister, it's an absolute joke. The man is incapable of doing his job. The man is in a party that's incapable of governing. And the Scottish people would be far better if Westminster used controls at their disposal and dissolve the Scottish Parliament. Make it an assembly again and give them less powers. Please. Thank you very much. See you all again soon. Have a cracking day. And remember, give it a thumbs up if you've lasted this long and you quite enjoy the video. Cheers now.